Good afternoon and welcome. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. We wanted to run a webinar just really to sort of help provisional psychs learn a little bit more about Connect, a career in workplace rehab, and also our graduate programme. So I've got a great panel lined up for us today. I've got a provisional psych who's been with Connect for a couple of years. I've got a registered psych who's been with us since being an intern. Oh, someone can't hear. Can everyone hear? Yeah? Okay, I'll carry on. And also, I've got Matt Wade, who is our state manager for Queensland. He is okay. I'm not sure why he can't hear. Can everyone hear me now? Yeah, I've got one yes, two yeses maybe. Yeah, I've got yeses. Cool, cool, cool. So I'll keep going. Yeah, and I've got Matt Wade, who is our state manager for Queensland. He is actually an OT, but I wanted to invite somebody from a different discipline because at Connect we are a multidisciplinary team. So to kick off, I'll introduce myself and then ask the panel to introduce themselves, their discipline, and a little bit about why they love Connect or why workplace rehab. So I'm Ali Kamel. I'm the talent acquisition manager at Connect. I've been in recruitment for the majority of my career. I love recruitment. It's a space that just always changes, with new search tools and AI, etc. It's just always been really enjoyable for me. But what I love most, I think, about working at Connect is it's a people business, and I'm all about helping people to make good decisions and helping companies to build great teams. So I'm going to hand over now to Ishan. Are you there? Can you introduce yourself? Or maybe shall I go to Geordie first? Are you there?
Hang on a second. Oh.
Oh, there we go. I think you have got me now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Ali. Yes, my name's Ishan. I'm a provisional psychologist who's been with Connect for about 2.5 years now, and it's been going really great. This was my first job after uni as well. So I'd kind of gone in straight from doing my honours degree at the University of Sydney in psychology, and have been working here ever since. Didn't really know too much about the workplace rehab scheme and scope of practice when I applied. But came in for an interview, and everything went great, and it's been great ever since.
Cool. And when will you sort of graduate as a registered psych?
Yes, exciting news. Hopefully the next 2 weeks should be getting my general registration. Yes,
Cool,
yes, so
cool.
coming up very soon.
Perfect. Now, Geordie, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear you, Geordie.
Okay, awesome. Okay. So I am very similar to Ishan, came straight from uni, my first big girl job. Applied for a few different roles, but I had an interview with Connect, came in, had a lunch with the team, and just loved the culture, the banter, and said yes to the position. And we won't say it's all sunshine and rainbows to start with because no job is, but it's very flexible, it's varied, and I think it's a great pathway for a psych.
Cool. Good introduction. And lastly, our state manager, Matt.
Hello. Hopefully you can hear me okay there. And welcome everybody. Great to have a number of people online. Look, I'm the anomaly of the group. I'm an occupational therapist by background, but don't hold that against me, please. Look, my background, I've always worked in workplace rehab for my professional career, so 18 years in this line of work now, and through that, obviously starting out as a in service delivery role as an OT, providing return to work services primarily for people on workers' compensation. and progressed through various different roles over that journey. So I've worked at a few different companies, but been with KINNECT for about 5 years now, and currently in the state manager role. So this is my happy place. A little bit of just sort of interesting background from me. Workplace rehab is what I actually thought OTs did, full stop. So when I started my degree, I always thought I would work in workplace rehab, and I wasn't aware of all the other different things occupational therapists can do. And I went through that learning journey over the course of my bachelor's degree, but came full circle back to this because it's what I'm really passionate about. So it was what I always sort of intended to do, and was lucky enough to fall into a graduate role doing this, and have stayed in the industry ever since. So here I'm state manager, which is a job I love. It gives me a really good opportunity to still be involved in supporting people to get back to work after injury or illness, but by coaching and mentoring our staff to deliver those services rather than myself carrying a caseload still today.
Cool, good intro. And lots of travel, hey, Mats?
Yeah, so look, as the state manager, I oversee our 9 offices in Queensland. And look, it's a bit of a love-hate element of the travel. I hate being away from my family when I have to travel for that, but I love getting to spend time with our teams and get out and visit clients with our local team managers and consultants. So that part of the job's nice.
Cool. So that's our panel for today. What I'm going to do now is ask Katrina to play our recent graduate video that we've kind of put together in the last few months. We're really proud of this. We worked on it as a team. It's filmed in our Wollongabba office, which has just recently been refurbed, so you get to kind of see the KINNECT style. And it was actually filmed during one of our quarterly catch-ups that the team managers have, where they all get together and brainstorm and do some L&D, etc. So you kind of get to see the team, and I think it really shows KINNECT and our culture and who we are. So if you wouldn't mind running that, please, Katrina.
Searching for a grad program that takes you as far and fast as you want to go, all while you make a real difference to people's lives? At KINNECT, we do things differently. As a graduate workplace rehab consultant, you'll be at the forefront of helping individuals reclaim their lives after injury or illness. From day one, you'll get hands-on training and supervision, a structured development plan, mentoring, and a supportive team to give you a flying start in a career with purpose and impact. No 2 days will be the same as you face fresh challenges in the field with your team. You'll collaborate with clients, healthcare professionals, employers, and insurers to help people through their recovery journey. You'll learn how to conduct assessments, develop personalised recovery plans, write reports, and navigate the complexities of the healthcare and compensation systems, all while having experiences you won't find in any other job.
I think it's really important to feel supported when you are in any new space, but especially after learning a lot of theory, translating that into practical experience and mannerisms can be really, really tricky. So I think having that one-on-one support was really important early on, so I was able to grasp those good habits early.
Along the way, you'll hone your clinical, communication, organisation, relationship management, problem solving and collaboration skills. But the true reward lies in the impact you'll have on people's lives as you guide them on the path back to confidence, independence and the job and life they love.
For new grads, we do a lot of supervision and support on the jobs, lots of frequent case reviews, so spending a lot of time really going deep into the file to really support them with the strategy.
At KINNECT, we're a values-based business, and culture is everything. From social events to team-wide celebrations and never letting a birthday or anniversary go by, we're committed to ensuring our connectors are happy, highly skilled and driven to create sustainable value. The benefits at KINNECT are amazing too. Flexible working arrangements, a paid day off for your birthday, paid parental leave, transparent incentive programs and more. And with clear advancement opportunities, your career path at KINNECT is as bright as the futures you help create.
We get to travel quite a bit. So I've been to places like mine sites, trains, prisons. Yeah, just understanding and just learning about the role is always interesting.
Not convinced yet? Here's one of our original grads who's come a long way.
So I'm James Buckley, I'm the State Manager of Victoria and I'm an accredited exercise physiologist. So I started at KINNECT as a new grad many years ago and have worked as a consultant. I've been involved with looking after projects and have moved into the State Manager role. So the support at KINNECT is very tailored, so it's individualised to the consultant depending where they're up to in their journey, their clinical journey.
Having someone by your side and being able to reassure that you are doing the correct thing within that workplace was really, really supportive and made me feel like I can do this job.
Ready to jump into a rewarding career in occupational health and workplace rehab? Apply for KINNECT's graduate program today.
So now we're going to cover a few different topics today, and then we'll sort of give you sort of questions to the floor so you can ask us whatever you would like to. So I think I'm gonna go to the whole panel to start with. We're gonna look at now why choose a career in workplace rehab, why become a workplace rehab psychologist. So to you, Matt, what will a provisional psych learn?
Look, thanks, Ali. For me, this area, workplace rehab, is great for any allied health professional, but particularly for psychs, I think it's a really good opportunity to get a blend of clinical and organisational psychology in the one role without needing to have gone and done a master's in org psych. So for us, we know that work is a really huge part of people's well-being, and there's really clearly evidenced links between lack of work and poor mental health outcomes. In a return to work role, rehab consultant role, it gives the opportunity to blend your clinical skills as well as your organisational awareness to help people participate in return to work activity and get that purpose, that meaning, and that sense of achievement back in their lives. So I think this is a really nice role that doesn't force you into choosing between clinical or org or other areas. It gives you a bit the best of all worlds.
Perfect. Okay. So now I'm going to ask Geordie, what type of conditions have you treated, or could somebody in this role expect to treat?
Yeah, you'd expect to treat, those secondary psych conditions from physical conditions, so your depression, anxiety, PTSD, but I've also treated some clients with bipolar, substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder, even prolonged grief disorder. And then I think Ashan even said the other day he's had a client with schizophrenia, so it's very broad.
Yeah, cool.
I
Okay,
think, sorry, I was just going to say, to jump in on that, I think it's also important for people to know that we see a broad spectrum of presentations, not just in the diagnoses, but also the severity. And that can be from people who have psychological or mental health symptoms but don't actually meet DSM criteria to be given a psychological diagnosis, and particularly in the case of secondary psychological concerns that Geordie mentioned. So often that might be people who have had a really significant physical injury and are struggling to cope with the adjustment that has resulted in their life, right through to your more sort of diagnosable clinical psych conditions, as Geordie mentioned.
Do you see many primary psych cases as well?
I definitely do. Yeah.
What sort of cases have you seen?
Just kind of the ones I mentioned earlier. That's my main caseload. And then, sometimes if needed, if there's a physical injury and the client isn't coping well, that's kind of when it comes to me. Like if the psych barrier is more significant than the physical.
Cool. Okay, thanks, Geordie. And Matt, how do they apply their sort of psych toolkit in this role?
Yeah, look, this role gives you a really good opportunity to use your assessment as well as your counselling skills as a psychologist. And assessment can be in the form of a more clinical assessment. So something we would often do would be a psychological capacity evaluation, where you're using a range of clinical screening tools as well as clinical interview to get a really clear assessment of someone's level of functioning and match that to the demands of their role. So you get that chance to really hone your clinical assessment skills. At a more informal assessment level, it may be as simple as going and having a meeting with someone to get some background around their symptomology, their treatment to date, and their goals, what we would call an initial needs assessment, to help map out a bit of a return to work program. Once you've worked through that assessment phase, you would then often move into your intervention phase, which in some instances can be short-term clinical counselling services, but other times is more using your counselling skills in terms of things like motivational interviewing and engagement to help drive a return to work process. So really broad and varied depending on the presentation, but also the referrer expectation of a particular case that is sent to you.
Lovely. And what skills and knowledge will they develop over time in this role?
Is that for me?
Yeah, sorry, I'm looking at you, but you can't see that.
Oh, I can't see who you're looking at. Yeah, look, I think the ability to engage and interact with a range of stakeholders is really key to success in this area. So you will come out of uni with a whole plethora of psychological interventions in your toolkit from the study you've done. And this gives you the chance, of course, to put those into practice with real life people who need your support, particularly around that return to work journey. So it is a steep learning curve as you step into the role, but obviously a supported one to help you continue to hone and develop those skills. Probably an area that's a little bit nuanced with workplace rehab as opposed to other areas of psychology is the ability to also learn about the psychological demands and psychological hazards of various workplaces and how that interplays with people's overall well-being. So as I mentioned earlier, this is an area where you get to really blend your clinical psych skills with an organisational psych focus without the further study of having to have gone and done your masters in org psych. Definitely some psychs in this area go and do that, and it further broadens their skill set and experience, but it's a good sort of precursor before going down that path if it's an area of interest to you.
Cool. And to Ishan and Geordie, why is the job so rewarding?
Yeah, happy to start this one. I really like this role, as Matt was kind of alluding to at the start. It is very varied, so day to day can look very different, and there's a lot of different things that you can be doing to be supporting people. And my favorite aspect is getting face to face with clients. I think that was my goal after my honours year. I just wanted to get some experience, really meet people, help them, and this role's really great for that. You're meeting people face to face, going to their workplace, potentially meeting them maybe at their home for an initial assessment, and then going into that intervention phase. You're assisting them pretty much weekly, checking in on how they're going, reviewing their treatment progress, and ultimately assisting them with their return to work.
Lovely, thanks Ishan. And Matt, what about sort of career opportunities long term for registered psychs in workplace rehab?
Yeah, look, there's definitely a lot of career opportunity for people coming into this industry, regardless of the professional background you have, but particularly for our psychs. So we've had a number of psychs on board with us and work through their provisional pathway to full registration within this industry. There's a couple of really good examples on the line of people who moved into this as their first role, and Geordie, who has achieved her full reg, and Ishan, who is about to. So it gives you that opportunity to progress through your provisional pathways to full reg. In terms of roles beyond the role of a workplace rehab consultant, there is a tiered structure within the workplace rehab consultant role in terms of being a consultant to a senior consultant to a lead consultant, and the ability to increase your remuneration, your pay, as well as your level of seniority within the business going through that pathway. And typical things psychs may do as they've settled into the role and working through that progression is take on mentoring of other psychs, whether that be less experienced psychs joining our business, where you get to provide a bit of mentoring and coaching and support, or at times student placements and get to support students who are going through their practical placements as part of their uni degree. So there's that ability to develop from pure service delivery into a coaching sort of mentoring role. Beyond that, there's a number of sort of typical pathways people go, and often that can be down the path of operational management. So like what I've done, gone from being an OT delivering services to a manager of a multidisciplinary team. It could be down an SME pathway, so subject matter expertise. So you may get involved with projects around refining our service delivery processes and procedures, improving our templates for the various reports we work on, and those sorts of things. Other people go down more of a relationship management pathway. So they may move from working with individual workers who need our support to working with large organisations, employers or insurers, and supporting them on the initiatives they provide to their workforce or their client group. So look, there's a really broad range, and different pathways suit different people depending on their skill set. The first and foremost thing I would say is it's a great opportunity to get in and get some skill development on the ground and progress your pathway towards that full reg as a first step.
Cool, lots to think about there actually. So I think next let's dive into the actual program and the structure. I think Matt, it might be good for you to kind of talk through sort of the supervision, the mentoring, PD, and all of the other aspects, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, sure. So look, we run a graduate program which runs on the calendar year. So typically, most of our graduates will start at the end of the uni cycle, have a well-earned break and kick off in graduate roles sometime in January. And we run that as a 12-month graduate program. It's also open to people who may join mid-year. It builds as it goes, so it's better to start at the start, but we don't exclude people if they start sort of in later months. And we also open it to people who are new to this industry. So sometimes we get people come on and they may have a year or two experience in a more general sort of counselling role, but it's their first time in a workplace rehab role, and they can glean a lot from that. And having those people in the program has been really beneficial in previous years because they bring an additional level of experience to help the broad learning of the group. So within the graduate program, there's a number of components that make that up. It is a multidisciplinary program, but with subset activities specifically for the psychologists. Most years, and this year looking similar, the cohort will be primarily psychologists and occupational therapists as the areas we're focusing on with our recruitment for this year, but possibly some other disciplines as well. Typical components of the support available, supervision from a dedicated team manager. So all of the staff who onboard with us will have a team manager, in the vast majority of cases, a local team manager who will be responsible for their day-to-day learning, induction and support in the role. We do have multidisciplinary teams. So if your team manager is not a psychologist, you'll then receive mentorship from a consultant, either locally or from another location, depending on what is the best fit to support you with your ongoing learning in addition to your local team manager. We focus a lot on professional development as a business, and the graduate program is a really strong example of that. So we have monthly PD sessions. We're looking at ramping up our graduate program next year to also include an increased face-to-face component where people will get together and work through professional development workshops specific to not only the workplace rehab industry, but as I mentioned earlier, then with subset sessions around the role of a psychologist in this space. You can see the other dot points on there, but probably just what I would say rounding out around the graduate program, it's a really great way to connect with people who are at a similar stage of learning as yourself. And what a lot of our graduates have found in previous years is they get just as much from that collegiality and the shared learning experience from other people who are on the same learning curve that they are, as they get from the guest speakers and mentors running the program. So you really have that dual learning element, which I think is really nice for our cohort to go through.
Cool. Brilliant, thank you. And I think as well, to add to that, I think we've sort of decided on our supervision plan to support provisional psychs. We realise that, you know, it's more expensive for you guys than other disciplines, so we want to support you through your studies. And our CEO, Amanda Johnston, who is also a psych, she has confirmed that we will be reimbursing $200 per hour for up to 80 hours of supervision over a 12-month period, and this amounts to an investment of 16k from KINNECT. So I think that's a pretty generous and very supportive program for you guys coming on through, and as well as this amazing program. And I'm going to sort of ask Ishan and Geordie some questions now, because they've been through the program, and to really get their sort of feel and take on it. So I'm going to start with you, Geordie. How did you feel when you first arrived? I think you mentioned before this was your first job, you were the new girl. How did you feel when you first got here?
Overwhelmed would be the word, but I went from, you know, a cushy uni student working casually to a full-time job, so it was very hectic. But about, I think it was a month in, I was very close with the team. We were like doing events after work. We really like gelled, and it was really nice. So I felt very comfortable pretty early on. Not going to say like everything's easy, because there's so much to learn, but yeah, no, it was really good early on.
Cool. I think that's the big thing about KINNECT. So I'm going to ask Ishan now. How did KINNECT help you personally settle in?
Yes, very well, actually. I think similar to Geordie, came in, was quite nervous, being my first role out of uni as well. So didn't really know what the working life was like, but yeah, was helped very much so by my team. So I was based in Sydney. So I had a really great supervisor and team manager here, who really supported me in my learning initially, and continued to support me as well. So that was really great from a learning perspective. Had the time to, you know, go through some learning modules, learn about the workers' compensation system. Didn't really have much knowledge about it previously, but I was really supported in that endeavor. And another kind of support was speaking to my other provisional psychologists or other graduates who had started around the same time. So Geordie and I had actually started around the same time. So that was really helpful in us kind of developing a relationship, you know, learning together. That's, you know, in the workers' compensation scheme and workplace rehab, as well as, you know, normal general psychology information and skill development.
Cool. And that's actually one thing I forgot to tell everybody. We're all from different locations. So Geordie, you're in Rockhampton, aren't you?
Yeah.
Are you in,
Yeah.
I thought I was suddenly like, oh no, she could be in Mackay. I always get those locations mixed up. And Ishan, as you just said, you're in Sydney. We have
Sydney,
two. Are you
yes.
in Mackay or
I'm
Mascot?
Macquarie Park.
Macquarie Park, yeah, that's what I meant. And Matt's generally Gold Coast location, and I'm in Brisbane, Nunda. So we all kind of, although we're all in different locations, KINNECT is very similar experiences throughout all the different offices. So
I think,
yeah, sorry, Matt.
Sorry, Ali, I was just going to jump in. I think it's an important point for highlighting and for people to appreciate. Obviously, our metropolitan offices tend to be our larger offices, but the graduate program, and particularly the use of, you know, technology in a day-to-day sense, is a great enabler for the learning of our people. And I imagine in the audience we've got people from a variety of sort of geographical locations. So on the call we've got a couple of sort of really contrasting examples in terms of Ishan, who onboarded in Sydney, which is, you know, where the biggest population in Australia sort of sits, and you know, we've got a couple of fairly large offices, through to Geordie in Rocky, which is one of our really small offices, where it's not viable for us to have multiple sites. Geordie is our sole psych there at the moment, but continuing to grow. And I think it's important for people to recognise that the graduate programs and the learning and development opportunities we provide really help bridge that gap between sort of big and small offices and help us work as a united team.
Yeah, cool. Right, okay. So, Geordie, what about the complexities? Have you found it quite complex learning about workplace rehab? Does it take a long time?
I'd definitely say it takes a few months to get your head around things. But even still, something will come up 2 years in. I'm like, oh, I'll just double check with someone. But the harder thing for me was the acronyms. You turn up and everyone's saying IME, MAT, and you don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, I just found I had to write everything down, and I use my mentor, support people, and yeah, you definitely get your head around it. But as I was saying to someone I'm mentoring yesterday, just fake it till you make it. If you're on a phone call and you don't know what you're doing, just say, yep, I'll just get back to you on that one. So you make it work.
That's one of my favourite sayings too. So, Ishan, what about in Sydney? Did you get opportunities to shadow other consultants? How does it work when you start?
Yes, so that was a very good learning experience for me. I think one of the first shadowing experiences I had was visiting the Coca-Cola factory here in Sydney, which was very didn't know what to expect, but we did an initial assessment with a worker there, and I got to see the insides of the factory, which we probably wouldn't normally be able to see as a regular public member. So that was very interesting, and just an insight into, I guess, what I would expect down the line in terms of the role.
Cool. And do you spend quite a lot of time at client sites?
Yes, yeah. So depending on who we're assisting, if we're doing like a workplace assessment, we might visit the worker and the employer at their company address and assist them there. Otherwise, I meet clients all around. They can come into our office. I can meet them in a local park, local cafe, at their home. It's kind of pretty flexible in terms of our support.
Cool, I didn't know that. And Geordie, so Matt talked earlier about sort of the L&D and that KINNECT are really big on running those for the program. Is there any particular, I'm putting you on the spot a bit here, but is there any particular session or topic or learning that stood out for you?
Yeah, the one that really stood out to me was the outcome measure one. So we learned like what outcome measures to use, like the DAS or OMPQ. And because I'm not from a physical background
now.
Yeah, I know, sorry. And yeah, because I wasn't from a physical background, I didn't know when to use the OMPQ. Can't tell you what it stands for right now. And yeah, I just found that really beneficial. And we also learnt the benefits of why we're bothering to send out the outcome measures. It helps us keep track of the worker so we can support them. We can update the doctor, the treaters. So yeah, I think that was the best one for me.
Cool. And so there's a different topic every month, is there?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was monthly, not quarterly. Yeah.
Yeah, monthly.
Right. Cool. Okay. And keeping you on the spot, Geordie, did you have a mentor? How does it work with a mentor? How do they support you?
Yeah, I was set up with Georgia, who's in our Gold Coast office, and she's not a psych, she's a rehab consultant, but has plenty of experience in this industry. And pretty much how it works is we do I think at first it was weekly catch-ups, moved to fortnightly, and even now that I'm registered, I still catch up with her monthly. But, sometimes I'll message her and just say, stuck on a file, can we have a chat? And she's always there to help me. And yeah, if I have a difficult session, I'll message her and say, can we have a chat? I need to have a whinge, or she'll tell me to go for a walk and come back. And yeah, not just even work-wise, I think we've made a really good friendship as well.
Cool. It's nice to have those sort of relationships where you feel you can trust people to sort of ask them to help you when it's, it's been a bit difficult and things like that. Cool. Okay. Right, what else shall I ask? Yeah, I'm going to ask you one more, Geordie, actually, then I'm going to move on to Ishan. I'm going to ask you this question because you are in Rocky. Do you have to be proactive, on the program? Is that necessary? I mean, obviously, we're going to do our best to educate and bring everything to everybody, but, what does it take from your side?
Yeah, you definitely have to be. If you want to make it through the internship, you have to be proactive, because pretty much no matter what workplace you're in, you're going to have to do some external stuff. Like the big psychometric tests we had to do. Lucky I was able to use the iPads at work, and some of my colleagues helped me out with that. But it was after hours work that I had to do. but get you to that end goal of being registered, which is extremely rewarding. But yeah, like wherever you are, you're going to have to be very proactive.
Do you need to build sort of external networks as well?
Yeah, yep, definitely. So I was linked up with Ashan and Taylor, who used to work here very early on, and she actually found me my supervisor that got me through my internship, which was amazing. So you have to lean on your community, and if we get a lot of new grads coming in, that would be awesome, so they can all use each other.
Yeah, definitely. Leaning on the community is so important. Yeah. So, Ishan, would you recommend a career as a workplace rehab psychologist? Serious question.
Yes, I definitely would. I think what it provided me was an opportunity, as kind of Matt said, to use some clinical skills day to day, but also, incorporating skill development in other areas as well. Using a lot of my counselling skills.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just said what other areas, but you said using my counselling skills, sorry.
So yes, using a lot of counselling skills day to day in conversations with different stakeholders. We're helping our client, but we're also, the middle person with other stakeholders involved. So that could be, chatting with the employer, chatting with all the treatment parties, the psychologist, the psychiatrist, the GP. So we're using all those kinds of skills day to day. And it really helped me develop my skills beyond just kind of, learning about it in uni. So that was, really beneficial for my learning as a psychologist.
Yeah, I can imagine there's lots of kind of negotiation and things like that involved. Sorry, Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to say one thing that I think is important to highlight is Ishan talks about using his counselling skills, and sometimes that will be in the context of traditional counselling, 6 sessions of CBT style intervention with someone over a course of 8 weeks. But more commonly, it will be utilising those counselling skills outside of the counselling session context. So it might be that you are having a 15-minute conversation with a worker you are supporting who has had a really hard day at work, and they've called you to raise some concerns with their duties or with their supervisor relationship. And you're utilising those counselling skills within the context of that stakeholder management, barrier identification and problem solving, separate to 1-hour session blocks as you would have in a more sort of clinical private practice type psych role. So I think this is a really good role to fast track that counselling skill development with the combination of scheduled counselling sessions and counselling skills via other modality in the terms of stakeholder engagement. Would you agree, Ishan?
Yes, for sure. I definitely say so. Having that opportunity, talking to clients every day, sometimes in that 1-hour session, but more often than not in those 15 to 20-minute conversations. And I think that's sometimes when, it depends if something's just happened, or, those are the times that you can really help them, in that immediate aftermath, or them getting some really good advice or support in the short term, rather than maybe them having to wait another week for your next kind of 1-hour session. So I think that's been really helpful for me in developing my skills, and it's also really helpful for the clients we help.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you. Right. Okay. So, and just to ask both of you guys, coming out of the program, do you feel it set you up for success, given you a good foundation? Yep. Thumbs up.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Sorry, my computer was frozen there for a second. Yes, definitely set me up for some success. I think it helped, develop the foundation of my psychology toolkit. So, developing all those skills, which I learned through uni, but, having the chance to practice them and develop them through the duties I've been doing. Yeah, obviously always continued development and learning as well. But it's nice to build that foundation. I feel like this role gave me a really good foundation to continue to build upon.
Cool. Right. So just to kind of you guys have talked about the program there, just to kind of give a little bit more of an understanding of a day in the life of a workplace rehab psychologist. Just a couple of quick questions. Ishan, can you give me an example of variety in the role?
Yes. So a day-to-day could be very different. It kind of depends on, what you've scheduled in. So you could be visiting a client at their workplace for an initial assessment. You could be then coming back to the office, having a 1-hour counselling session, delivering maybe an ACT or CBT style-based intervention. You could be calling the client's GP, the psychiatrist, the psychologist. You could be attending a medical case conference, which is just attending a GP appointment with the client as well, to make sure the GP is updated on the recovery progress. You could be doing some learning development. You could be catching up with your team leader or supervisor. So yes, a very varied day. But one thing I really love about the role is that it's so varied, and that, we're not just stuck in an office 4 or 5 days a week. We get out and about, we go face to face with our clients, with other stakeholders, and really see the effects and benefits of our support.
Cool. Okay. And what kind of people do you help? Which industries? I know you mentioned Coca-Cola before, but are there, what sort of jobs are people doing?
Yes, it could be pretty much anything. So I've assisted a variety of roles. Could be very physical roles. So I've assisted people who've worked in the mines, people who are truck drivers. I've also assisted people who are quite high up in organizations. So looking at directors of organizations, people in HR or other senior executive members. So yeah, it can really be anyone you're assisting, and it's important to know who you're assisting, what their role is, because that might result in a tailored approach, tailored approach from us in terms of supporting them.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And Geordie, how would you say, obviously one of the problems, people have barriers to returning to work. How do you break down those barriers? What sort of tools do you use?
Yeah, it's definitely a skill that you develop over time. Initially, it's quite overwhelming and you're like, oh God, why don't they want to go back to work? Why can't I force them? But I found that you need to find their motivation. Like, what is it? Is it financial? Do they want to socialize? Why do they want to get back to work? And you need to play on that. And you need to do that by building that rapport with them, like showing you're on their side. You're not just an extension of work cover. We're there to help everyone. And if you're working with the employer, you need to make sure that relationship is good, because if they don't like their employer, they're not going to want to go back. So yeah, that's the main ones I would use.
Interesting. And Ishan, does everybody return to their existing job?
No, they don't. So sometimes they might have to return to a new employer, and that's where a lot of our support services as psychologists, rehab counsellors, that's where we can use some of our skills as well in terms of assisting them in returning to new employment.
Okay, cool. So that's a whole different skill set again that you need there. Okay, and Geordie, you mentioned insurers. What skills do you need to work with them? Because that must be different, I'm assuming.
Yes, definitely. And as Matt referenced in a PD session last week, you want to go to the insurers with solutions, not problems. And that has really stuck with me. It's so true. You need to be confident and planning ahead. Like, you don't just want to go and whinge about things. You want to show that you're being proactive and moving the file forward. So, yeah, that is the main one.
Cool. Lots of really great information here, guys. Thank you. So just a quick topic, why Connect? So I'm going to ask Matt, as the longest serving member of the panel, who would you say we are as connectors and what's most important to us?
Yeah, thanks, Ali. Look, for me, the thing that really resonated with coming to Connect was the way we live by our core values. And those are happy people creating sustainable value. Our why is to help people. And our CEO is an exercise physiologist. Our founder is also an exercise physiologist. And this company has really grown on helping people, literally from two EPs doing gym programs out of a caravan in North Queensland to 200 plus people spread all over the country with a full suite of multidisciplinary services. So it's been a really nice sort of growth of the company, which has happened really organically. So literally one person at a time, one new office opening at a time, as opposed to some other organisations of our scale who have grown by acquisition. So
Yeah.
that natural growth story has enabled us to get a really nice balance of maintaining true to our core values around helping people, an intimate feel in the business. I mentioned our founder, is an EP and, has owned the business for the 28 years it's been in existence, but still knows pretty much everyone. And he's literally sitting, I'd say, about 15 meters from me at the moment, unless he's already knocked off for the day. So he's still very active in the business here in our Gold Coast office where he's based.
So whilst you're on Connect growing organically, I just thought I'd ask you, what is it looking like for us? What's the future looking like for us? Are we still growing?
Yeah, look, we definitely are continuing to grow. So we've had year-on-year growth over that fairly decent history now. We've been around since the mid-1990s, but significant year-on-year growth, which continues to compound when you're looking at sort of 20% year-on-year. Look, at the moment, we're in the process of opening a number of new offices. So our Newcastle office will be our brand new one, where I think we picked up some keys this week. So we're in the process of opening the Newcastle office. Over the course of the next 6 months or so, we're also likely to open offices in Bundaberg, Canberra, and Adelaide. So continuing to grow and expand our footprint. We started out in Queensland and have had pretty significant growth in Queensland, and over time we've sort of infiltrated the other states and continuing to expand to a full national footprint, which is great. Great in terms of being a part of something that is growing and succeeding, but also great in terms of opportunity. So we have a number of people who have started in roles in a particular location and then had the opportunity to relocate and still stay within the business. And sometimes there's been context around that in terms of people who relocate for their partner's role, but get the opportunity to stay within the business, moving to one of our other sites. Other times, people who relocate for career progression. So we've had people start as a consultant in a particular location, but then put up their hand for a promotion to a management role in another site, which is great to be able to reward and provide. There's some other elements on there. Culture is something we're really big on. So we really pride ourselves on having a strong culture, and elements there around competitive salary training that we've sort of touched on throughout the course of the conversation.
Cool. Okay. On that note of culture, I'm just going to ask Geordie and Ishan, from their perspective, what's the culture like at Connect?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty incredible. I don't have like a lot of other companies to compare it to, but we do like morning teas regularly, team lunches. Like within Rocky, we try and do team lunch together every single day, and we feel a bit weird if we don't all see each other at lunchtime. What else do we do? We do K Day every year, which is awesome. I know that Ishan has done like axe throwing. We don't have that in Rocky.
Stress reliever.
Yeah. But I would say the culture's great. Ishan, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think I was a culture rep for our Sydney Macquarie Park office for 2 years. So that was really great in terms of running our culture here. And I think with what one of the new starters recently told me, who I'm currently mentoring, it was just really nice coming into work and people are smiling, people are positive. And that's, the experience I also had when I joined as well. And probably what's kept me here for so long is that culture development is a really big part of Connect. And you just want to go into work and you feel excited to go into work.
Yeah, certainly one of the happiest, best cultures I've worked in, definitely.
I think just to round out that point on culture, it's also important to acknowledge there's different elements of culture, and Geordie and Ishan have touched on some of the social elements of culture, the teams being close and building those professional friendships and the social activities. But a big part of what we pride ourselves on in culture also comes to providing challenging but rewarding roles for our people and ongoing recognition, support, and mentoring. So culture is not just the social activities, but it's also a culture of shared success, celebrating the wins with our clients, and continuing to really focus and double down on what we do well, which is helping people, and particularly in the context of workplace rehab, helping them recognise the health benefits of good work through the interventions we're providing.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so on to the recruitment process. So at KINNECT, we like to keep that process quite simple, really. We just want to really get to know you all and get to know your skill sets. So we start off with a phone screen. That's initial conversation to get to know you and assess your fit. Then we move on to what we call a top grade interview, which is a bit more of an in-depth discussion about your skills and experiences and looking at your competencies and things like that. If you're successful after that stage, we move on to references. We generally ask for 2 professional references that are relevant to the role and can really sort of, expand on who you are and your skill set. If the hiring team are happy at this stage, we move to a verbal offer, and we sort of agree a start date. If you're happy with that, then what we do is we put that offer in writing to you, and we get you to sort of look over that and take your time, sort of with 2 to 3 days getting back to us with a formal signature. So that's our process, really. Nothing too unusual there. It's just really to get the best out of you and get to know you. And I thought what I would do for the next section is just give you some of my tips for navigating a recruitment process, because people always ask me, so I thought I'd just do a quick summary. First thing I'd say, definitely research the company. Familiarize yourself with the culture, missions, recent developments, that kind of thing. That comes across really well in a phone screen or an interview. It just really shows your interest and your readiness. It also gives you a chance to assess the culture and make sure it aligns with your values, and the proposition is what you really want, because it is a two-way process. I always say prepare for an interview, but try and stay natural. Like, for example, if I was to prepare for an interview, I will read the job advert and I'll look for the key skills, the key things that they're mentioning through it, like, say, teamwork, leadership, and then I'll think back over my career and my experiences, and I'll think, when have I demonstrated that behavior? Could I give an example? And just a bit of a run through. Sometimes you're thinking through your own CV and you think, oh, I forgot I did that. So sort of just prepare, but don't over prepare set questions, because that can throw you out. The other thing I really suggest is, during the phone screen, which is your first sort of connection with the company, try and give as much information as possible. You really need to stand out from the crowd here. So sometimes I come away and I think, oh, I like this person, but they haven't given me quite enough. So really make sure, you're answering with quite decent length answers. Yeah, that would be my tip there. My other tip is, and now this can happen a lot when you're in an interview process, and certainly if you're not used to interviewing, which, why would you be? You've been busy studying. If a question comes up and you're not sure, you can always ask to have it repeated. If a question comes up and your mind just goes blank, then just ask, just say, can we park that one for now and come back to it? So just keep calm and just keep going, really. The other really big tip I would give to people is you're being assessed during the whole process, not just the interview, the phone screen. How people respond in terms of, when they email me, is it professional? Is it well written? If I ask for references, do they come back quickly? If I ask them to kind of check their, if they're able to get accreditation, do they do that in a timely manner? All this shows me how you would act if we were to employ you. So just remember to keep that professionalism up as if you were already working in the job. So those are my tips there. Now I think we're going to open up to questions, and we're just going to put a slide up just with a few links to show you. So firstly, we've got the link to APRA there. So if you're unsure if you can register as a provisional psych, please go to the website there. There's also ASORC I've put up there, because that could be another route as well, and we would be able to employ you if you were to start with an ASORC registration. Then there's our LinkedIn page page there if you would like to go onto that page and follow us to keep up to date with all of our developments and what's going on with us. And please send me or any of the panel a connection request on LinkedIn so that we can stay connected. We would love to do that. So I don't know now, guys, if anybody has a question, if they would like to put a question in the chat, or they feel brave enough to like put their hand up and ask. And you can ask any of us, whatever you like. Right, got a question there. Okay, cool. Sorry, what's your name? Or you might need to come off mute. I think you're muted there.
Can you hear me?
Lawrence. Yes, yes.
So sorry. I'm in London at the moment, so I've had a real problem getting online, and it's very early in the morning. Great to hear from you all. It's been amazing. I just wanted to ask, obviously, what have been your greatest successes? Obviously, we're in this to help people. It'd just be lovely to hear very quickly, just a one statement about something that's really, you know, made you think, wow, I'm so glad that I've done this. You know, I've really helped this person. Just a success story, I suppose, would be great. Unless I've missed that because I didn't hear the first 10 minutes. I do apologise.
No, great question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to go.
You go, Matt.
Go on, Ishan. You go.
Perfect. I think one of the greatest success stories, or I think one I really enjoyed, was I was assisting this individual who was diagnosed with bipolar. So this was through workplace rehab, but this was through voluntary workplace rehab. So he didn't, so his company actually funded his treatment and our service as well, which doesn't normally happen. But I think in this certain circumstance, it was really rewarding because I got to see his progression from where he was in terms of those symptoms and those manic episodes, and then working together with him and his whole treatment team to really get him to a point where he could actually go back into work and manage those symptoms really well. And I think just seeing that progression, you know, by calling him, seeing him every week, seeing that gradual progression back was really rewarding for me.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Cool. Right. Who's up next? There's LA there.
Did you have one, Matt?
So yeah, I was just going to say one that comes to mind for me. Look, we're in this to help people, obviously, and you always remember the good news stories. And thankfully, over 18 years, that there's been a few, but there's one that stands out for me. A young man I assisted who had really significant injuries in a helicopter accident. So his role was literally hanging out of helicopters, repairing power lines over regional areas in the middle of Australia, and had really significant injuries as a result of the helicopter crash he was in. Long story short, I was able to assist him getting back to work, operating drones, which effectively replaced his role. So the organisation he was working for was moving towards using drones to do repair and robots to do repair on some of these power lines rather than people having to hang out of helicopters to do that work. And we were able to use his recovery and rehab time to get him training in that particular role and get a full return to work outcome that he could do from his home instead of hanging out of helicopters, which was no longer feasible given the significance of his physical injuries.
Wow, that's amazing.
And I have one. It would be a client that was involved in a mine site accident, a pretty big one. He had a lot of physical impacts, like he's got a nerve stimulator in his back, and he was only mid-20s at the time, and he had PTSD, like very anxious to come into appointments. And over the time I worked with him, I think it was just over a year, he eventually progressed in his treatment and got a job. And the day he told me, I shed a little tear. It was just incredible to watch him go from such a low place to working. And then I actually ran into him recently at work. So that was really good.
Cool. Lovely.
Thank you so much. And apologies about my name. The S on my computer just got stuck in mid-flight, so I'm lost. It's Louise. Thanks so much. That's really encouraging.
Right, cool. Who's next? I can see Kathy's put a question in the chat. She says, you've already mentioned that each day at Connect is varied, but do you have a daily caseload? And if you do, how many clients would you see each day?
I'm happy to tackle this one.
Yeah, go for it, Jordy.
So we don't have like a daily caseload. We just get a caseload as referrals come in, and sometimes they drop off when they get back to work or they close. So at the moment I'm sitting on about 30 files. Some are more active than others, and you plan your own caseload schedule. Sorry. So, you know, if you want a day, if you don't socialize well on Mondays, make it your report writing day. Book your assessments on Tuesday morning, and then go from there. Like, you just have to get everything done, but within timeframes. But you make it work for yourself and all the stakeholders, obviously. But yeah, no set daily targets.
I think the point there, and what Jordy said is spot on. And that sort of number might vary a little bit in different states. So different states, there's some slight nuances around the workers' comp schemes. 30 is a sort of standard caseload in Queensland. You might be a bit less in some other states, but it's fully autonomous. So we have customer expectations to meet, but you have that license, you know, in consultation with your team manager, to work your schedule to what fits for you. And some people have quite stacked client contact days, and then other days for things like report writing or catch up. Other people like to spread it a bit more evenly. So it varies. As a guide, most of our consultants spend around 6 hours per day with, you know, sort of client work, and then the remainder of the day on more administrative components of the role, catching up on your emails, you know, the odd team meetings here and there, and the other bits and pieces. So hopefully that gives a little bit of a sort of feel for what the role involves.
Ali, we have Lawrence waiting to ask a question.
Yeah, sure.
Hi, thank you. Regarding joining APRA, so I've actually tried before, but they tell me that I need to continue with a 5+1 internship program, or a higher degree, which includes, it seems to include master's degree. I was just wondering if you guys actually can support people struggling to apply into it. So I've actually completed my bachelor's degree in psych and counseling, but I've never actually had someone show me at the uni I go to, not necessarily show me, but inform me of how to apply to certain areas, because the uni I went to only paired up with ACA.
Yeah, look, it's probably one, like, to get into the specifics is probably a conversation offline or a link in with Ali, Lawrence. In general, yes, we can provide a degree of support or guidance around that. There are a lot of variations of degrees in psychology and different levels of recognition between APRA registration, ASOC, Australian Society of Rehab Counsellors, ACA. There's a few different pathways depending on exactly where your sort of degree and qualifications sit. So the short answer is we can potentially provide some guidance there, but it's probably just a question offline to see if we can point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
Right, so we have a number there. I'm not sure, someone else has got their hands up. Do you want to unmute and go?
Yeah, hang on. Oh, they disappeared.
So I think that hand up might be Louise from before still.
So there's a number 42 there. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I want to ask a question regarding, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. First off, hi to all. My question is regarding, I already applied with, KINNECT to start my provisional psychologist program. So I'm, eager to ask. I don't know it's a right to ask or not. I just go through with the first screening with the team, Ali, and after that, I just need to know what's the process. Already I see in a slide what the process steps you already show there in a slide. But my question is, like, the people like I am already applied with the KINNECT, get any opportunity to work with you after that or no? Because I'm on the step already, my overseas qualification is assessed equivalent to 5 years of post-graduation qualification, and I'm eligible for 1+ internship program.
Great.
And looking for the work to start because already my application is APRA, and I'm looking for a role to submit my plan to start as a work intern.
Great, cool. I think you mentioned there that you've already phone screened.
Yeah, already.
Yes, cool. So what we're doing is I'm phone screening quite a few people at the moment, and we were just sort of waiting for everybody to come along today to hear more about it, and then we're going to move into the interviewing section sort of end of this week, next week. So you should be hearing more then. And I think you mentioned that you were looking to start quite quickly.
Yeah, actually, I'm available immediately because I'm right now only looking for a role to submit my plan. Yeah.
Okay, so I think as Matt mentioned, ideally the program runs from January to December. However, depending on the office and the location and the team, we sometimes start people at different times. And there are other provisional sites that we could kind of connect you in with as well. So yeah, we'll be coming back to you shortly and we can work out all of those details.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your time and response. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Right, do we have any more questions? Yes, Aubrey. I'd just like to ask if you accept international applicants for your graduate program. I'm actually a psych graduate from the Philippines and interested to study my master's degree in Australia. Wondering if it's possible with your graduate program. Good question.
Do you want me to jump in there, Ali?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So look, in terms of the specifics of your degree from Philippines and for the study or master's program here, we need to look into just what that meant in terms of ability to obtain registration here. As a general rule, yes, we do accept or consider applicants from international. We've had a number of staff come over, relocate to Australia from other countries and start in roles here. There's a few requirements for us to work through just in terms of eligibility to work in Australia, visa processes and the like if relevant. So I think the short answer is yes, but just with an asterisk that we need to look at the specifics of your situation and make sure that those factors could be accommodated.
Lovely. So certainly possible. Perfect. Right. Do we have any other questions there? Just trying to say, I can't see any hands up. Oh, I think another one's come through. Let's have a look.
So the question is just about part-time.
Is there an yes, part-time?
Yeah,
so the short answer is yes. So
what would you call part-time, Matt?
Look, what I would say is typically to give yourself the best chance of really learning in this role and settling in well and being able to manage a full caseload, you'd probably want to be doing a minimum of 3 days per week. The nature of the clients we work with is that there's a mix of scheduled contact, but also ad hoc contact in terms of them reaching out to us for support if they've had some challenges in their workplace in a particular day. So any less than 3 days a week can just be challenging to manage that availability to your client cohort, but also makes it just harder to consolidate and build skills in a timely manner. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but usually we say part-time 3 or 4 days per week is ideal. Less than that makes it a really steep learning curve.
Yeah, perfect. Cool. That's what I thought. I just wanted to double check with you. Right. Lovely. Any other questions there, guys? No, I think we're good. Yeah, so I think that's the end of today's webinar. Thank you so much for everybody for attending. If you do have any more questions you'd like to chat offline, please feel free to reach out to me. And yeah, we hope to see all your applications shortly.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.